Available seasonally at Specs. Details at specsonline.com. Cheers to savings.
Another warm one today. Going to get up to around 90. Winds maybe 15 to 20 miles an hour, mid-70s. For the low tonight, a few clouds rolling in for the weekend, so we're going to be in the upper 80s. And then rain starting on Monday. Right now, 78 on the beach in Galveston. Same here at the University of Houston. Already seeing winds out of the south at 15 right now. Humidity 79%, so it's getting a little bit better. Listen anywhere we're streaming live online at HoustonPublicMedia.org. It's KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. Houston Matters starts right now. Stick around. 9 o'clock.
HISD Superintendent Mike Miles officially unveiled his plans for special education at last night's board meeting. The plans, leaked online last week, have sparked backlash and a federal investigation. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, what we learned from last night's meeting and what may happen next.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, how road and highway construction projects are scheduled and why there can be frustrating overlaps or unwieldy detours. Then, from a former Texas Lotto official's indictment to the WNBA's official return to Houston next year, this week's non-expert panel weighs in on intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Plus, our Mean Show Jacob talks with singer Lucía. She performs Sunday at Houston's Eldorado Ballroom. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Stocks opened lower this morning, erasing some of yesterday's gains. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbled about 420 points, or nearly 1%, in early trading.
President Trump says China is promising to boost its purchases of U.S. products ranging from soybeans to jetliners. CEOs of Cargill, Boeing, and other U.S. businesses accompany the president on his trip to Beijing, which was partly aimed at stabilizing relations between the world's two biggest economies. Today marks the end of Jerome Powell's 8-year tenure as chairman of the Federal Reserve. Powell helped steer the central bank through a tumultuous period that included double-digit unemployment during the pandemic, followed by the highest inflation in 4 decades. Kevin Warsh will take over as Fed chairman after winning Senate confirmation this week, but in an unusual move, Powell will remain on the Fed's governing board. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The U.S. Border Patrol Chief, Michael Banks, has retired from his position. His departure is the latest in a string of exits from the agencies that lead President Trump's immigration enforcement efforts. NPR's Jimena Bustillo has more.
In a statement to NPR, Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott said that during Banks' time as chief, the border was transformed into, quote, the most secure border ever recorded. Border Patrol agents work within a 100-mile radius of the U.S. border and ports of entry, like airports. But under Banks' leadership, agents were sent out into what's considered the interior of the country to make immigration arrests. The agency was caught up in backlash over enforcement tactics, which came to a head after Border Patrol agents shot and killed 37-year-old Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. The next chief will be appointed by Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin. Mullin, who is still new to his position, has said he wants to take a quieter approach to immigration enforcement. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
South Carolina's governor is calling state lawmakers back into special session today. The governor wants them to take another look at changing the state's congressional map. From South Carolina Public Radio, Gavin Jackson has more.
On Tuesday, the Republican-controlled state Senate fell narrowly short of the two-thirds support needed to extend a legislative session already underway and take up redistricting. Now, Republican Governor McMaster, who was an early supporter of Trump's in 2016, has called lawmakers back to start a new session, which could flip the state's sole Democratic majority district, represented by Congressman Jim Clyburn, to a Republican majority. Absentee ballots are already being cast in primaries, and in-person early voting is set to begin May 26. A deadline lawmakers are also using for a new map and legislation to delay the voting. It's unclear what this will mean for ballots that have already been cast. For NPR News, I'm Gavin Jackson in Columbia, South Carolina.
And you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the University at Buffalo, where innovative AI degrees are dedicated to putting students at the forefront of realizing AI for good. More at buffalo.edu/NPR. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. A federal judge has put a stop to an immigration law in Texas that would have allowed local police to arrest suspected people who crossed the border illegally. Senate Bill 4 was passed back in 2023 by the legislature. It made crossing the border a state crime. Civil rights groups brought the lawsuit challenging the legislation earlier this month, arguing that certain parts of the law are unconstitutional, and a judge issued a preliminary injunction last night against those sections of the law. HISD Superintendent Mike Miles is defending the district's move to centralize special education services. At a board meeting last night, he noted that while special education achievement was up in the district, more needed to be done. Dozens of parents protested the changes. Here's Margaret Alvarez. Her 11-year-old son, Knox, is autistic.
This is not an educational change. It is an eviction from his support system.
The U.S. Department of Education is currently investigating to see if the district's changes to special education services violates the rights of students with disabilities. Stay here. Our education reporter, Bianca Seward, was at the meeting last night and is coming right up here on Houston Matters. Texas oil and gas employment has increased slightly, according to the latest jobs report. Here's our Natalie Weber.
Texas added more than 1,800 jobs in oil and gas drilling and production in March. But overall employment in the industry still remains slightly down from the same time last year. That's according to a recent analysis of Texas Workforce Commission data conducted by the Texas Oil and Gas Association. Houston added 200 oil and gas extraction jobs, according to the Greater Houston Partnership. While oil prices have skyrocketed due to the U.S. and Israel's war with Iran, many Texas companies say they're hesitant to increase oil production while prices remain volatile. Overall, Texas added more than 46,000 non-farm jobs in March, with a slightly higher job growth rate than the rest of the country. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
78 degrees right now. Here on the UH campus, we'll hit 90 on the thermometer today. I'm Matt Harab, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and on Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, how road and highway construction projects are scheduled and why there can be frustrating overlaps or unwieldy detours. Also this week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and a conversation with musician Lucía ahead of her concert in town this weekend. First, though, Houston ISD Superintendent Mike Miles officially unveiled his plans for special education last night at a raucous and emotional board meeting. The plans to relocate students who need it to a handful of campuses was leaked online last week, sparking fierce backlash and a federal investigation exploring whether the district's violating the rights of students with disabilities. Bianca Seward covers education for Houston Public Media. She was at last night's meeting. She's here with us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Greg.
Okay, let's start with a reminder of what these leaked documents laid out and why parents and advocates were alarmed heading into last night's meeting.
Yeah, the core concept that was leaked in those plans is the centralization of special education services in the district. There are a number of different special education services offered at a number of different campuses, so people can, whenever possible, go to the school in their home neighborhood, the one that they're zoned to, right? This one would change the way some of these programs are offered, kind of push them into one high school that would be sort of a hub, a special education hub, and students from a number of different surrounding high schools in the areas would then be shuttled to a new high school that, they might not have ever been to.
Did what Superintendent Miles presented last night actually match what was in those leaked plans, or did the district walk anything back?
No, the district did not walk anything back at all. And interestingly enough, Miles wasn't the one to give the presentation. I know a lot of parents showed up to hear him speak about special education changes, and he gave a little bit of a preamble and a little bit of a post, but Deputy Superintendent Kristen Hull is the one who kind of took the charge laying out the plans. And essentially, they are exactly what the leaked draft documents indicate what's going to be happening.
We should note Miles was initially scheduled to come on Houston Matters yesterday on Thursday's show, but canceled after this federal investigation was announced. We do hope to have the state-appointed superintendent on for a future program. did Miles or the assistant superintendent or the state-appointed board, did any of them seem at all deterred by this federal scrutiny?
They didn't mention it. So if they are feeling deterred, they didn't acknowledge it last night. Neither Deputy Superintendent Kristen Hull or Mike Miles or any board of managers talk about the federal investigation, ask questions about how the investigation might impact their plans. It felt business as usual or moving forward as usual. Right now, the district has said that they are not commenting as it's an ongoing investigation, but they've defended their plan and they're still moving forward with it. So it should begin in August.
Okay, business as usual for them. How about the rest of the room? What was the atmosphere like?
It was tense. I mean, it's not uncommon for these board meetings to become really tense environments. There's a lot of anger in the community about a lot of the changes that are happening under the state takeover. And so last night was a little bit different, actually. Nearly 100 parents spoke up to or signed up to speak out about the changes in special education. And there was a level of emotion. There was a sadness in the room.
What do they have to say?
Yeah, a lot of them made personal pleas to stop the centralization, to stop transferring students from their home campuses where they've made friends or they've connected to the schools or they've bonded with their teachers. For a lot of parents, this uprooting their routine or this late timing for the changes really rattles the entire family. So one parent last night was saying that for a child with autism, routine isn't a preference. It's an absolute necessity for any hope of success for the child in school. And a lot of them just really talked about how it stresses the entire family out when something happens this late in the game and they don't have time to acclimate or prepare for the transition.
Yeah, this is being announced now for next school year, so starting in August, September. Mm-hmm. Did anything during those comments appear to land with the board or with the superintendent?
Miles did listen to every parent and kept eye contact as far as I could see. He usually remains very stoic in the face and quite composed. So it's hard to see if there's any connection that's happening there. There were a couple of public education advocates that are regular attendees to these board meetings and often are critical of Miles. I did catch him mock one of them, so I'm not sure. That's kind of an ongoing tense relationship there. So it's unclear if there was an emotional connection there.
HISD has a troubled history with special education as it is. The state, in fact, established oversight of HISD special education efforts back in 2021 after finding systematic failures. Improved special education is also part of what the district needs to do to eventually exit state oversight. Did any of that history come up last night?
Yeah, I mean, a number of parents cited how many years the special education department had really failed their families. And Miles also acknowledged it. For over a decade, there hadn't been a good answer to special education services. And he noted, special education achievement is up in the district, but said it wasn't enough. And, a restructuring of the services and the instruction, he indicated it might be time to do more. He said it's not enough. We need to do more.
So this is now formally announced. It's going to be implemented in September. They're moving forward?
Barring any kind of results from the federal investigation that might stop them, yeah, they're moving forward with this plan. And parents got letters and calls over the last couple of weeks indicating whether they would be moved from a campus. You got a letter even if nothing were to change for you, if your child was going to continue in their same classes at their same home campus. They've been doing those calls over the last couple of weeks. And the district has also been fielding calls from parents. They've gotten about 1,300, they said, inquiring about what the changes will be. Deputy Superintendent Kristen Hull made a point to say that 90% of the parents that call were received the changes positively, but there was a chuckle in the room to that. So it was quite tense last night.
Is a change like this something that requires a vote of the full board, or?
Yeah, the board did not vote on it. It didn't indicate that they'd be voting on it. It looks like something that Miles is going to be implementing without a board vote. There isn't anything on the schedule for me to see that they would be voting on this. They've already told parents about their campus reassignment, so it doesn't look like we'll get any kind of board of managers to weigh in.
Back to the federal investigation. Federal law gives parents of students with disabilities specific rights around placement and services. Did anyone raise concerns last night about whether this consolidation plan could put the district in legal jeopardy?
Yeah, that's at the heart of the federal investigation. And a lot of parents mentioned this as soon as the documents leaked. Their concern is the least restrictive environment. That's kind of at the core of this, that students with disabilities, students in special education, have every legal right to be educated alongside their peers in the least restrictive environment, meaning they need to be able to go whenever possible, whenever beneficial to the student, to the campus in their neighborhood, to the school that's closest to them, to the school that has the program that they need. And so public special education advocacy efforts have been, flagging this. The least restrictive environment is kind of at the core of what the Department of Education, is looking into. Like, have they violated the rights of these students with disabilities by, plucking them out of their home campuses and transporting them to a new one?
What are parents and advocates saying now about what they plan to do next?
They are organizing. I see a lot of online chatter about looking for advocacy experts or legal experts that might be able to help them pro bono, or some parents are willing to shell out to get the protections that they might need. One thing that's coming up again and again, Miles said last night that no IEP is changing. And to remind our listeners, an IEP is a learning program that's decided upon after the student is fully evaluated for what their needs might be in the district. Parents say if the IEP isn't changing, they can't be sure in these new campuses with such short time that those campuses will offer the services that are required or legally obligated through the IEP. So there's a lot of talk about getting help on the legal level to make sure that those IEPs are not changed, are honored fully. And so, there's a level of organizing I see here that they haven't seen. Special education advocates has told me they haven't seen in a couple of years here in HISD.
Bianca Seward covers education for Houston Public Media. Bianca, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, roads. Where we're going in Greater Houston, well, we definitely need roads. And that means sometimes frustrating road construction. We'll try to get some common questions about it answered as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
I'm Ernie Manous on the next Hello Houston.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
And from Central Market Wine Department, featuring hundreds of sparkling wines, rosé wines, and non-alcoholic spirits and spritzers for spring entertaining. More centralmarket.com.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Road construction is unavoidable in a region as large as Greater Houston, but you ever feel like it's everywhere you're trying to go, as if several road projects across multiple routes from point A to point B are taking place all at the same time? One of our listeners thought so. Lisa wrote in to say and asked, can someone explain or investigate why all major highway ramp interchanges on the east side of Houston are all having work done and are closed at the same time, and who approved this? Now, while it's unlikely that every single interchange is closed, sometimes it can seem as if road work is never-ending and ubiquitous. And it can make you wonder, just how does road and highway construction get scheduled? How do road closures get approved? How are detours decided on? Let's get some of these questions answered now with the help of Danny Perez. He's Lead Public Information Officer for TxDOT, and Brian Manning, CEO of MC2 Civil, a local contractor that provides construction services on utilities and roads. Danny, Brian, welcome to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
And as we talk through this, we welcome your questions and comments for our guests at 713-440-8870 or talk@houstonmatters.org. Danny, how much planning goes into the different highway construction projects we see around the region?
Well, lots of planning. I mean, we have different offices that handle different projects, so it depends on the location. We have multiple offices in the Houston district. We're 6 counties. So it could be multiple projects that are there are well over 200 active projects in the Houston district. So that could be construction projects, maintenance projects, signal projects. They're just a wide range of projects. And for the traveling public, it's going to look like they're stacked. And that's very well taken. But we try to make sure we don't impact the public when they're driving into multiple work zones. We try to make sure we plan them accordingly. We're not impacting, significant events. And what I try to tell people is that we have 52 weekends, for example, to work. We try to do a lot of work in the evening time. We try to make use of weekends where we have those longer times where we can start Friday evenings and then have the weekend. And so we're going to impact someone when we have some kind of closure. We have workers that work in the evening time and that work the overnight schedule. So we try to do these closures where they're not impacting the traveling public so much. But the issue is we have a growing community. The communities are continuing to grow. Houston's continuing to grow. We're seeing the growth across the state. And as long as we're getting money that's coming into to the Houston area and to the state, we're going to keep moving on these projects. We have projects that are ready to go. We have them packaged. We're going to move on them. We do get those calls a lot of times where folks are saying, well, how come you can't finish one and start another? That's not the way it works. We're not going to be in a position where we can start one we'll never finish. We have to get projects moving. And so we want to be mindful of the impacts on the traveling public, but at the same time, we have to continue to move on these projects. And so the best thing that we can do is to let folks know to know before you go, to plan ahead and to make sure they know what road closures are coming up. But the best thing that we do is when it comes to planning is to minimize those impacts. So if we're going to do a road closure, we try to make sure we're not closing. If we don't need 3 lanes to close 3 lanes and we only need 1 lane closure, we work with our contractors and say, hey, why do you need 3 lanes closed? And if they justify that 3-lane closure, sometimes it's for safety. Sometimes it's because they do need those 3 lanes for equipment. And we work with the contractors to make sure we're minimizing the impacts. It's really important.
All right. You know what, Danny, I apologize for interrupting you, but since you bring up contractors, let's bring our other guest in. Brian, as a contractor, what are your responsibilities as far as doing work within a given timeline?
So when we're bidding a project, we are giving the timeline from the owner. In this case, if we're talking about TxDOT, we have different timelines for different phases. So as was mentioned, there may be a certain work zone where we can do a 2-lane closure versus a 3-lane closure. There'll be certain time period that we can have that closure. And as he was mentioning, it's important that safety be adhered to. A larger work zone for a contractor is better. Anybody that's changed a tire on a busy Houston freeway appreciates how fast traffic is moving, and our construction workers are working right next to that moving traffic. So it can be quite dangerous. So we only take as many lanes as we are needed, but we're also mindful of safety.
Danny, how does TxDOT ensure that projects are in fact completed within a timeline? What happens if something's delayed and suddenly you do have projects in close proximity overlapping?
What we do is make sure we're working with the contractor. If there's any issues, then of course we have different opportunities for different recourse that we could use. But of course, it's always a last resort. The big thing is to work with the contractor and make sure we're working with them to get the project finished. We have some great contractors in the Houston area. Brian's group, we work with them quite often, and we get these projects done. Actually, his group has been tremendous in working with us on getting some of our larger emergency projects. And so it's on top of the planned things that we have in the Houston area. We also have some big issues that come up that are sometimes emergencies. And so working with those groups and getting those groups that we work with on a regular basis, it's really important for that coordination.
Brian, when there are delays, what are some of the things that tend to cause them?
Well, we're working in an outdoor environment, and weather always does play into the work that we do. So that can have an impact, both from a workability and a safety standpoint. So a lot of the closures that he was talking about on weekends, if we see the chances of rain, we're always watching for that. It's important to note that a large storm event has much less impact on us than frequent storms. So frequent storms can delay a project and move that timeline out. So that's one aspect of the work that could cause delays. Utilities are another significant cause of delays when unknown utilities are encountered.
Danny, how did you respond to that initial listener question and comment that I shared, suggesting that at least to that listener, it seemed like there was a ton of road work and closures all taking place on east side highways all at the same time?
It's that growth, Craig, that we're talking about. It's a lot of it's going actually district wide, but there is a lot of growth on the east side. We're dealing with 146, 225. There's just significant growth, and a lot of the infrastructure that is on the east side. It's really, it dates back. Some of it dates back to the 50s and 60s. So we're working on that. Some of it is just at the interchanges, for example, and then also HECTRA, Harris County Toll Road Authority, is doing some work. So you have multiple entities that are doing things on that side of town. The city of Houston, HECTRA. We're doing some work. So it's just the partnerships and the work that we're all doing together collectively. But that area is really growing, and so we're trying to address the growth together. But you're seeing it throughout the district, throughout the entire. We're seeing the growth in all parts of our district in Montgomery County, Fort Bend County, Brazoria County. But definitely on the east side, we're seeing we're working on those interchanges. Those 225 at the Beltway, for example, there's no connector ramps there. And so years ago, when they built that infrastructure out in those areas, there was not a need for connector ramps. Well, now there is. And so you're starting to see a lot of those projects coming online. So we're working on those types of projects and working with
Danny,
HECTRA.
You mentioned working with HECTRA, working with these other entities, and they've got projects of their own to accomplish. Are there ever moments where, say, TxDOT goes to HECTRA, goes to the city, goes to anybody else that says, whoa, time out. Don't do that project right now because we're already doing this and this and this, and it's just too many closures?
Well, we coordinate with them. And same thing with Metro. Metro has multiple projects as well. We have World Cup coming up, and so we're all working together. We actually had a call yesterday. We have our North Houston Highway Improvement Project. We have some work going on in the East Downtown area. So we have a regular coordinated meeting with Metro, working with them and just making sure we're all coordinating. And that's the big part. We have to continue these projects. And sometimes they'll stop their work. We have Houston's a really busy city, so I think folks maybe don't think of those events. And we think about the Rockets, the Astros, the sports teams, but we don't think about the marathon, the other events, the rodeo. And sometimes we have to stop for those events. We don't stop construction. We just minimize the closures. So it does prevent folks like Brian and his group. They may have to cut back. They still have to work, but they don't have the opportunity to close lanes. So, like I said earlier, we only have 52 weekends to work in. So we're already cutting back some of those weekends. It really makes it difficult and squeezes the contractors on the weekends. They can close and have major closures, and when they can close those lanes.
Brian, another piece in this puzzle is often as a project is underway, there has to be some sort of detour, some sort of path for people to get around the work that you're doing. And I imagine you also have to staff that to a degree as well. How much leeway, how much insight do you have in determining where those detours are and how far out of their way motorists may have to go?
Well, typically those are prescribed for us. So there's an engineered traffic control plan that we typically follow, and it just depends on the timing. If that conflicts with another project, there's quite a bit of coordination, as Danny mentioned, going on between projects in Houston, and there are a lot of them, and different agencies that are doing the work. So it's all prescribed for the contractor, but then we adjust as a route needs to be adjusted.
And I guess this is a question really for either of you, but I'll start with you, Brian. It's naturally frustrating for motorists when they have to navigate around road work. What should the public ultimately understand about the work that you're doing?
think the important part, Danny mentioned that we do a lot of emergency work. Sometimes things happen. A truck will hit a bridge or something like that, and public safety's paramount. So when people are going into those work zones, it's so important to obey the speed limit signs. I think there was about 28,000 work zone, not fatalities, but crashes, and about 203 work zone fatalities. So it's serious business when we're in there working. We're not in there and just closing down lanes when nothing's going on. So emergency repairs are important, but again, the regular maintenance, the work that we do in the middle of the night to not impact traffic, maintaining those roads is preserving them so that they last longer and our tax dollars go farther.
Brian Manning is CEO of MC2 Civil. Danny Perez is Lead Public Information Officer for TxDOT. Thank you both very much.
Thank you so much.
And just ahead, from a former Texas Lotto official's indictment to the WNBA's official return to Houston next year to the latest effort to bring back the Houston Toad. This week's non-expert panel weighs in on intrigues in the news, on the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides rail, paratransit service, and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
Support comes from DePelchin Children's Center. May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and DePelchin is celebrating the foster parents who ensure that Houston area children are part of safe and loving families. Learn more at DePelchin.org/fostercare.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Raúl Ramos, Associate Professor of History at the University of Houston, Natalie Arceneaux, President of Arceneaux International Consulting, and Lisa Falkenberg, Senior Columnist with the Houston Chronicle. Raúl, Natalie, Lisa, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thanks.
Howdy.
Good morning, Craig. Panel, former Texas Lottery Director Gary Grief and the abolished Texas Lottery Commission are being charged by the Travis County DA's office with felony abuse of official capacity for misusing their positions in connection with the 2023 Lotto Texas caper that helped international gamblers to a guaranteed win in tens of millions of dollars. As the Houston Chronicle's Eric Dexheimer and Tony Plahetsky reported Thursday, the April 22, 2023 Lotto Texas draw was the subject of the paper's two-year investigation, which revealed how Grief and the agency tasked with overseeing the lottery helped the overseas bettors to purchase nearly every possible six-number combination, some 25 million tickets, to assure their victory by providing extra state lottery terminals and paper, no questions asked. Grief's attorneys say the grand jury indictment is the product of politics, that there was no crime, and that his client generated millions for Texas schools and veterans. As for the commission itself, since lawmakers abolished it last year after the scandal was uncovered, its summons was issued to the head of the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. Texas Lotto's leadership is charged with a felony for helping bettors buy millions of tickets to guarantee a jackpot win. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Raúl Ramos, start us off.
Well, it's ugly, of course. Are we surprised that the group in charge of legalized gambling is maybe cheating a little bit? It feels a little quaint right now, the way gambling is just everywhere in our lives, the way Kalshi betting is everywhere, the way Polymarket People are, betting on every little thing, whether the light's going to turn green in the next 3 minutes or not.
Whether I'd stumble over that long explanation about this story.
I, by the way, I lost that bet. I think that and so we're seeing right now insider trading going on those kinds of things. So the idea that there's fairness in gambling is I think raising some questions around the fact that we're supporting our social services with this kind of activity. I think is pointing out that that's really the problem as well.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Natalie Arceneaux.
So slightly different take. It's good, it's bad on kind of different wavelengths. So, look, I've always said it before, and I do play the lotto. You can't win if you don't play.
That's right. You got to be in it to win it.
You got to be in it to win it. But I've said before, I'm like, if I had enough money just chilling under the couch, I would go and buy every permutation because that's a great investment. You spend, $25 million to win $1 billion. Okay, great, right? Wonderful. My whole thing that makes it bad is I'm still not sure how they accomplished it. If the Texas Lotto just gave them extra things to fill out the numbers with, that's one thing. If they provided them manpower to fill it out, if they, took terminals that weren't available to anyone else and made them accessible to them, that's different. To me, you still have to go through the process that a regular person goes through. No special attention should be given, but I don't think you should deny somebody the tickets to write your numbers on just because I call you and ask you for 100,000 of them because they're not available. If I have 100,000 and I want to play 100,000, then I play 100,000. So that's my thing. What I would also be interested in, to Raúl's point about how we are funding some of our services, I would like to know, where is all the lotto money going? Because it doesn't feel like the schools are benefiting from all the money that is spent. So that to me is a bigger question and probably a different show.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Lisa Falkenberg.
I used to know the answer to that because I used to cover the lottery kind of closely, and some does go to education. But when they passed it, as I understand it, because I was a child, but I think when they passed it, it was a promise that the thought was all of it was going to go, and so it does go to other places. No, it's good. I think that they're charging him. When I was in Austin as a young reporter with the Chronicles before I moved to Houston, I wrote a lot about Gary Grief and a lot about gave him a lot of grief, and wrote about the lottery because there were a lot of things he was doing. He was just terrible to the employees, but he also just had a lot of things that weren't transparent. And I knew something was going on there, and I never got to it. So I'm glad somebody has found something, because that man was just. He had a wall set up where there was a lot of information that I couldn't get. Anyway, but Eric, my colleague, has done such a good job at the reporting of this. I think that it is important to hold somebody accountable. Now, Gary Grief's attorney is saying, it's just political and they needed a scapegoat. Well, who else was in charge? Right. He was in charge of the lottery. I mean, where does the buck stop? And he's long been in charge of the lottery. And I don't pretend to understand all this really down to, granular level, Natalie, but there were rules that were violated. There were safeguards that were supposed to be in place so that this kind of thing couldn't happen. And, it is unfair. It is unfair if you can just call up the Lottery Commission and say, we're going to set up this fake store. We need a bunch of terminals real quick. Bring it on over. No regular person could do that. And then we're going to win this thing, and nobody else, I guess statistically, nobody else had a chance, but technically they did have a chance. But anyway, and so just take all the money away. So everybody entering, was under the idea that, people more or less had an equal opportunity when they didn't. And this Australian guy who's supposedly leading all of this, this is what he does. He just goes around, and I just think there has to be some kind of fairness, like promise of fairness and actual, policies in place that give people more or less a fair shake. I don't play because I know the math, and I'm not that optimistic, I guess. But for people who do play, they should believe that the game is fair. And it's hard to believe that now, but hopefully this guy will be held accountable.
I mean, I don't know if anything gambling is fair, though. I mean, it's gambling.
Yeah,
the
house wins.
The house wins all the time.
Panel, it's official. The WNBA will indeed return to the Houston area next season. On Wednesday, the WNBA and NBA Board of Governors unanimously approved the sale and relocation of the Connecticut Sun to Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta. The Sun will play the rest of this season in Connecticut with a couple of games in Hartford, also a game in Boston, before moving here to play at Toyota Center starting next year. Houston has not had a WNBA team since the Comets folded in 2008. The Comets were WNBA champs each of their first 4 seasons, starting in 1997. All right, it's official. The WNBA's back here in Houston. Good, bad, or ugly, Natalie?
I think it's great. It's another sports avenue. It gives visibility to women's athletics. And, again, when I played basketball, we won't talk about when in the 90s, I was like, why would I pursue this? There's no place to really go after you finish high school or college. So let me just redirect my attention to school again. So I think it gives girls who have athletic abilities the chance to also, again, know that they could play in the city that they're from, right? And you don't have to leave your city to go play somewhere else. I think it's great.
All right, good, bad, or ugly, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable on this. That's why we are non-experts. I think it's really good. Tillman Fertitta has talked about it for a long time and just, finally making it happen. Like Natalie said, all the young girls who aspire for something greater can now see on a regular basis, where that can take you. They just need some star player who has a lot of onomatopoeia in her name, like Cheryl Swoops. Because even somebody like me who doesn't follow this is like, that is an amazing name.
Good, bad, or ugly, Raúl?
It's great. I mean, it was a bit of a shock when the team shut down. I mean, they had so many titles. I mean, they were doing so great. They were so popular. So it's great to have them back. I agree. The thing that I'm particularly happy about is that they don't have to come up with a new name. The name's already there. You don't have to deal with trying to figure something out like when the earthquakes came for the Major League Soccer and they couldn't keep the name, so they decided, first they decided Houston 1836, and now they're the Dynamo, so that's good. So it leaves me with one question, though. Which statistics are going to continue? Is this going to be a continuation of the Comet statistics, or is it going to be the Connecticut statistics?
Let's leave that to the sports pedants to figure out.
Right.
Okay?
Well, it's professional sports.
Yeah, pick up where they left off.
It
was a good place.
We get a bet on that now, too, by the
way.
Yeah. Panel, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department says more than 1 million Houston toad eggs have been released at Bastrop State Park. Why they are not here? Well, as Houston Public Media's Kyle McClanagan reported this week, the Houston toad's natural habitat has shrunk to the point that it no longer includes the species namesake. The Houston toad, in fact, has not been seen here since the early 1970s and has been on the endangered species list ever since. After a wildfire in Bastrop County in 2011 really did a number on the already dwindling population there, reintroduction efforts began with the most recent one this spring. Matt Lammers, the Houston Toad Recovery Coordinator for the Houston Zoo, says the Houston toad is endangered in large part due to poor habitat management. The hope is that Bastrop State Park can be that better managed habitat. An effort's afoot to bring back the Houston toad. It's just not coming back to Houston. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Lisa?
Good and bad that it's not coming back, but is this kind of like the Tennessee Oilers? Like it shouldn't be called the Houston Toad anymore if we don't have it. It's like it doesn't work if we don't have it anymore.
That's a good sports name, the Houston Toads.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not sure which sport, but
maybe for hurdle competitions
or competitive leapfrog.
There you go.
Anyway, and then does this guy have it on his resume, the Houston Toad Coordinator?
Yes.
Like that's a cool
It's a great title.
job, you know?
Somebody's got to do it, and thank goodness he's here to do it.
And then I had a question about the bad management. Who was badly managing things? Is that
I think that's overall all of us, humanity and our habitat.
Humanity, okay.
The climate changed, and it was not good for the Houston toad.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope there are better things. We've got such cool animals in Texas, and I think the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life in terms of wildlife was like being in Lost Maples once and looking down and seeing a leaf that was moving and wondering why it was moving, and it wasn't a leaf, it was a toad or frog that had evolved into the shape of a maple leaf.
Cool.
And I thought,
Wow.
wow. So all these little guys, they have, we need to help them live.
Yeah.
Great story, but we're short on time, so good, bad, or ugly, Raúl.
It's good we're keeping species alive, and this should be a warning for all of us. I would call them a canary in a bird cage. I mean, a coal mine. Sorry, but it would be a toad in a swamp.
Toad in a swamp. Okay.
Oh boy.
Fair enough. Good, bad, or ugly, Natalie.
I think it's good. And since my colleagues here have talked about the toad stuff, I will just say, kids, this means you should just shoot for the sky for job titles. Like, aim high, guys. Just do what you want. There's something out there for you.
Isn't it the Houston toad coordinator? I mean, shouldn't Houston be in there twice?
Oh, well, he is the Houston Toad Recovery Coordinator for the Houston Zoo.
Okay.
So I think it kind of already is in there twice.
Now there's going to be a bass drop.
We need a
Houston
show
Toad
that goes around
Recovery
finding
Coordinator.
job titles
There
and
you
finding
go.
out what was your trajectory to get there.
That is a great idea. I'm going to bring it up with the
You
rest of the
should.
Houston Matters team. Keep listening to this same bat channel for for that toad channel, if you will. Raúl Ramos is an associate professor of history at the University of Houston. Natalie Arceneaux is president of Arceneaux International Consulting. Lisa Falkenberg, senior columnist with the Houston Chronicle. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You count on Houston Public Media.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Plans.com, helping Houstonians find electricity plans based on home energy usage and rate comparisons. Enrollment details and more at electricityplans.com.
From downtown Houston, moving forward with more people back in the office, more visitors every week, and over $1 million grant dollars invested into small businesses and storefronts. More downtownhouston.org.
There's a voice coming out of Mexico that doesn't quite fit any single box. At just 24 years old, Lucía has already built a sound that moves fluidly between the warm harmonies of jazz, the syncopated rhythms of the Caribbean, and deep soul. Lucía started her musical career at the age of 2, singing and dancing in her parents' band Son de Madera. It's a group deeply rooted in the Afro-Indigenous melodies and rhythms of the Gulf state of Veracruz. But jazz captured the heart of the young vocalist. In 2022, she became the first artist from Mexico to not just enter, but win the Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition. Her self-titled debut album's out now, and she performs Sunday at the Eldorado Ballroom in Houston's 3rd Ward as part of the DACAMERA series Rising Jazz Stars. Lucía tells Houston Matters producer Mincho Jacob how she's always navigating between two musical worlds and feels she never quite fits into either one.
It's an interesting thing that happens when I'm in the U.S. And when I'm in Mexico. The people from the son jarocho tradition are like, oh yeah, the jazz girl that also does a little bit of son jarocho. And also when I come over here with like the jazz cats that are, straight ahead swing, and it's like, oh, the Mexican girl who also does a little bit of jazz. So I do kind of always like to give a little bit of context on the music that, raised me in a way, because I do think it's deeply more connected than we would think. And I also think if you listen to it and if you kind of like focus more on kind of not like very, like theory stuff or very like specific, but just like what the music is about, which is community, which is improv, which is a lot of interplay between the musicians. Those are like the same basis for both. So I do think that's like the thing that has brought me closer to a tradition that I wasn't born into, but I feel like I just love it so much and I just want to honor it. So yeah.
As you are performing and touring the United States, is there a pressure to be more, like to conform more, maybe not speak in Spanish, sing in Spanish? I mean, there's a little bit of a political act in that too, or do you feel like that's just...
Like, I don't really care about if I'm supposed to do this or that. I just like to feel what they're, also needing in the moment, because I'm all about the audience. Like, honestly, I don't really think I would be motivated to keep singing if it weren't for the people that come to the shows. Like, that's what gets me in my zone. So I like to kind of feel out, like, am I feeling that they want to hear more boleros, or they want to hear me introduce the songs in Spanish? They're reacting to the Spanish words that I, like include, or they're feeling a little bit more jazz standards and they're, so I actually do kind of also adapt or will be open to it on stage, like if I need to do one more tune that's in English, if I'm feeling like the audience is more drawn to that.
What a difference a day makes. There's a rainbow before me. Skies above can be stormy. Since that moment of first, that thrilling kiss.
So I think that's also a cool thing from doing a little bit of different things, because you can take it where it needs to go depending on the context. But I have been, like fortunate to encounter people that just let me be, and do not kind of put pressure into you should do more of this. Until now, it has been really open, and I'm cool with that.
On your eponymous album, the deluxe edition, I was listening to it, and you have that What a Difference a Day Makes. You do make it your own in a really interesting way, because you're singing in English. It sounds like a jazz standard, but then you sing in Spanish. And you have zapateado. Could you talk about a little bit what zapateado is and how you incorporated that?
Yes, well, zapateado is, I was actually just talking about this. It's basically the percussion of son jarocho, the dynamic of this style of dancing. It's actually to keep the beat going. And that's why it's not so much as a performative kind of situation, but it's more of the feet are part of the instrument, So yeah, we have some shoes. We dance on a thing that's called the tarima. And basically, what I'm doing there, it's just like not really like a solo section or anything. It's just like keeping the pattern that's called the café con pan, which goes tan café con pan over the whole thing that the musicians are doing. And I feel like it's so cool that they were like able to also interplay with that, and when we do it live, I think it's just really nice, like the reaction that the people have. Is it like tap dancing or is that flamenco? And I'm like, no, it's zapateado from Veracruz.
I'm like the water when your ship rolled in at night. Rough on the surface, but you cut through like a knife. And if it was an open shut case, I never would have known from the look on your face. Lost in your crown like a priceless wine. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man.
Going back to the language idea, Spanish and English, there's interpretation, and you can blend the two when you're bringing like a rhythm like that with jazz swing. Is that a language that a jazz bass player playing with you can understand and like get in swing with, I guess you could say?
I was actually surprised because the guys picked it up so fast, and I'm also really, I think fortunate to have found this band that I'm touring with, because I didn't really plan it. Like initially we were just like, getting them for some jazz gigs that I was doing in the city, that I wasn't really singing any of this stuff. It was mostly like standards. I think they've been able to kind of like get it to the point where it needs to be, and I'm just really excited to get to present this music actually, like maybe in Mexico. I think I haven't done a show with them, and see how the people react to these guys, like making this music happen in a jazz context and also adding to it, but I think it has been such a great experience to see them kind of like approaching it from their own way. And I think that's what enriches the whole sound.
Guess I should have known from the look on your face. Every bit of switch was a work of art. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man. You know that my train can't take you home. Anywhere else is hollow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's mine.
What can people expect at the show this weekend here in Houston?
Oh, well, first of all, they can expect a lot of songs that I'm pretty sure they will know, because that's what I've been into the most, like getting all of this iconic repertoire and reimagining it. A lot of improv, some wonderful musicians, an incredible piano player, Fabian Almazan, who's going to join us. He's from Cuba. And also some dancing, some zapateado. A lot of, songs that you can dance to also. So I think people should be prepared to maybe being open to getting up and dancing a little bit.
Jazz vocalist Lucía performs Sunday at the Eldorado Ballroom. She spoke with Houston Matters producer Mincho Jacob. And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. On Monday's show, we talk with author Michael Pollack about his book Sidewalk Nation, which visits Houston, as well as a number of other U.S. cities, to explore how sidewalks are at the core of public debates over commerce, taxes, property rights, policing, homelessness, surveillance, and more. Also Monday, we welcome your dog and cat care questions for veterinarian Dr. Lori Teller. You can send those now or through the weekend to talk@houstonmatters.org or call in and join us live Monday morning. Plus, the Astros try to find their footing against the Texas Rangers this weekend. While the Texans' 2026 schedule's out, we discuss each and why one's struggles and injury woes may already have us looking forward pretty intensely to the other's season, still 4 months away. It could be a long summer for Houston sports fans. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend. Then join us Monday for those and other Houston Matters.
Hello, I'm Nikki Beattie. Join me for this week's Arts Hour from the BBC. With American country music star Casey Musgraves, Indigenous Australian filmmaker Warwick Thornton, the Indian-born novelist Amitav Ghosh,